Hello and welcome to the Spirit Spa, an online sanctuary dedicated to supporting you if you're in the early stages of recovering from a nervous breakdown, helping you to identify why the breakdown has happened to you and work out your next natural steps towards rebuilding a flourishing life for yourself. I'm Karen Packwood, the UK's leading expert on recovery in the early stages of healing from a nervous breakdown. And in today's video, I'm going to be answering the question, how do you prepare when you are going to be starting a new job? This is a question that somebody asked when they were watching the video where I was talking about returning to work, and I'll put the link to that first video in the comments box below. But this specific question was relating to starting a new job. Now, as I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about what I'm going to say to you in response to that, it dawned on me that some of the things that I'm about to say also apply to actually just going back to work to your old job as well. So listen to the advice that I'm going to offer today and see, what feels appropriate for you. So the very first thing that I would advise you to do when you're thinking about going back to work, especially if it's to start a new job, we all know that this is a very, very stressful time, don't we? Starting a new job is a very stressful time at the best of times. But when we actually are still feeling quite fragile and vulnerable, it's an even more stressful situation. So the very first thing that I suggest that you do is make sure that you are very clear about who your support team are. Make sure you know who your family members are that are going to be helpful and supportive, who your friends are, who your healthcare professionals are, and basically just anybody, the circle of support around you. These are people that you know that you can turn to leading up to starting the new job. These are people that you can turn to during the first days of starting your new job, people you can call, people you can text in your break times. These are people that you can go to for professional support and advice if you need it, to talk things through. And it might be also people that you can sort of think about in terms of your social time outside of the job. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that later in the video. So really think about who do you need in your support team, and really think about what is each of their role. Be very clear with yourself about their role. Discuss it with them. Check that they're happy to be as part of your support team. Let them know what you need. Check that they're happy to be able to provide that, because obviously they will have things going on in their own lives, and they'll need to know that to be able to support you fully, they can really, they're really in a good place to do that. So don't just decide who you want in your support team and presume that they're in your support team. Do check it out with them and make sure that they know who they are and that they agree to it. So that's the first thing that I would advise you to think about. The next thing that I would advise you to do is to have a rehearsal. So I think it's a really good idea as you're leading up to going into this workplace is to actually rehearse the journey there, so you know exactly what the journey looks like, how long it's going to take you, any potential pitfalls with the journey, where you're going to park if you're in a car, where you have to walk if you're obviously going in a train or on the bus and so on. Make sure that you feel very confident about that journey, because it's very stressful, isn't it? Especially if you suffer from anxiety, getting yourself to work on time in a new situation is very, very stressful. So rehearse it. I also recommend that you seek opportunities to go and visit the work venue several times before you actually start. Meet the team that you're going to be working with. Find your way around the building. So that's not going to be stressful when you actually start. If it's possible and appropriate, meet the bosses that you're going to be working for. If you're going back into a managerial role, meet the team that you're going to be looking afterwards and after. Now, of course, lots of workplaces will have this kind of visit situation in place, but you actually might need it more than they're offering. So feel free to ask them and be honest with them. Say that you want to be incredibly familiar and calm and confident on your first day, and this will help you prepare to do that. That's something that I would advise you to do if possible. I also think that you need to think about organisation before the first day, and particularly for those first few weeks. Now, what do I mean about organisation? Of course, we've just talked about travel arrangements. Of course, we've talked about finding your way around the building, getting to know people. But there are some other things as well. So, for example, really thinking about your clothes. Now, of course, when you're starting a new job, or any job, of course you want to make sure that you're wearing the appropriate clothes. But it's not just about wearing the appropriate clothes, it's about making sure that you're wearing clothes that are going to make you feel confident. So really spend some time thinking about this fragile part of you, the anxious part of you. What do they need in order to feel very confident on that first day and those first few weeks? Get those clothes organised, know where they are. Don't have them, in a clump on the floor and and they're not ironed on the first day. Make sure they're washed, they're cleaned, they're hung up, that you know exactly where they are so that you can go and get them easily. And I know that sounds like an incredibly almost patronising thing to say, and at no point do I intend to be patronising in any of these suggestions. I just know that when you feel overwhelmed and a little bit stressed, sometimes it's difficult to remember these tiny things and also to motivate yourself to do them. So I'm just kind of offering them as kind of reminders, if you like, not at all intending to be patronising. But I personally find it's much easier if I make sure I've got my, my clothes ready the night before, and I know exactly where they are in the morning. Particularly if you've got to get up really early to go to work. You don't, you're really tired. You don't want to be messing around, do you, too much? So just get yourself really organised with confident clothing, and think about, what does that mean for you? Confident clothing. I also encourage you to think about your nutritional welfare. Personally, I'm somebody that when I'm feeling very stressed, I can completely forget about food. I can be really, really self-negligent around self-care with nutrition. I'm not so much now, but back in those days, in the early stages of my recovery, it would be very easy for me to not eat and kind of almost deprive myself of food, because so much energy was going into my kind of emotional welfare that I was didn't have the spare capacity to think about my physical well-being. So really make sure that you've got yourself some nutritious food to take with you. If you feel that you're going to be too anxious to eat, get some really healthy snacks, so you don't have to think about taking time to prepare anything and using up excess energy and stress levels that way. Get some healthy snacks that you can just eat periodically through the day to keep your energy levels up. Cartons of drink, bottles of water, and so on. Make sure that you've really thought about what's going to be quick and easy, but very healthy and nutritious, and therefore incredibly self-loving for you to do, throughout the day, particularly over those first few days. But obviously, generally, as an ongoing thing, to make sure that you're looking after yourself nutritionally, and extend that beyond the work day. What are you going to do to make sure that when you get home from work, you're going to be tired? What are you going to do to make sure that you can eat a healthy meal when you get home? Are you going to get some pre-prepared meals, healthy ones? Are you going to do some batch cooking? Are you going to ask somebody else to cook for you? Hopefully you're not going to just dive in and eat lots of junk food, because obviously that's not going to be nourishing you properly. So make sure that you're really thinking about how you're going to nourish yourself really easily, over those first few days, and into the first few weeks, and then in an ongoing way. I also think that it's a really good idea to think about your your exercise routine, if you like. And I'm not talking here about running a marathon. I'm talking about incorporating things like meditation into your preparation leading up to the first day. I'm talking about over those first few days, using your break times wisely, getting the balance between giving yourself a bit of breathing space and going and having some time on your own and some fresh air to just kind of calm yourself, rebalance yourself, ready for the afternoon, but also getting that balance between making friends with new people as well. Like, that's an incredibly exhausting part of the process, isn't it? But you want to make sure that you're not self-isolating as well. Get that balance, and don't be afraid to say to people, I'm just going to take 5 minutes to have myself to get a bit of fresh air. I'm just feeling like I need a little bit of, me time, and I'll come and join you in 5 minutes or whatever. Just be really honest with people. You don't have to go into the ins and outs of why, but I personally always find that I need to go and have a little bit of time to myself at some point during the day when I'm in a new experience. So, think about things like that. A bit of a walk, maybe outside, listening to a calming meditation for a few minutes, calling one member of your support team, maybe writing in your journal for a few moments. Just a little bit of grounding and rooting in with yourself again, because the dynamics and the energy when you're in a new workplace can be very overwhelming if you're feeling quite sensitive, can't they? Okay, I'm just going to look at my notes. I've got loads of notes. I'm just going to look at my notes and check what I wanted to say next. Use your breaks. So thinking about your time outside of work, you're going to be tired on these first few days and weeks. So really think about your social activities, if you've got any social activities going on at the moment. And if you have, really think about, in terms of your self-care, are you going to be able to carry those on, or do you need to just prepare to have a couple of weeks away from them so that you can just come home and relax peacefully and calmly? But you might actually also think to yourself, that will be a really nice balance to the intensity of starting a new job, to actually go and spend some time with people that you feel very safe with and that you can relax with and so on. But just have a little think about how you want to manage your time outside of work over those first few weeks, so that you're not going to exhaust yourself, but you're also not going to over isolate yourself as well, that you've still got some kind of supportive social interaction going on, because that's very healthy and very needed too. Okay, so and now I'm going to talk about honesty. So honesty is a big thing, isn't it? When you've had a breakdown, there's so much social stigma around, although things are much better now, much better understanding around these things now. But also we have our own internal stigma, we have our own sort of shame around it, which hopefully as you're working through my videos, you're getting less and less sense of shame, because there's nothing to be ashamed of, but that it's a journey to get to that point. So think about honesty. How are you going to manage it? Are you going to tell anybody in this new workplace that you've had a breakdown or that you've suffered from depression? You might feel that you're going into an environment that would be incredibly supportive and understanding. You might also be going into an environment where you think it would be kind of professional sort of suicide to do something like that. So really take some time to think about how you're going to protect yourself and have healthy boundaries around what people know about you. It might be that you might want to be honest about the fact that sometimes you get nervous, which is very different from saying, that you've had a full-blown breakdown. There's a spectrum, isn't there? Obviously, it takes time to build up trust with people. Don't rush in and tell people everything about yourself. Build your safety and security and trust up in the environment before you overshare anything. If you ever decide to share anything at all, and you might choose not to. But if you are in a situation where you think it might be well received and it might give you an added layer of support, then take your time, think about who it might be that you might share with, but just make sure that it is somebody who is in a professional position where they are honour bound to maintain confidentiality and behave highly professionally, that you're not going to suddenly become the subject of gossip and so on. I know you'll understand what I'm saying about that, but sometimes it is helpful to have somebody that you can confide in or you can share with. Other times it's incredibly wise not to, and you'll know what's right for you. But the other thing is this, sometimes when you go back to work, whether it's back to an old job or whether it's to a new job, you still find that having had a breakdown, things don't work, things don't feel right. You've changed, you've evolved, a situation that you might have been perfectly fine in before your breakdown no longer feels right for you. And this was very true for me in terms of my school teaching career. I knew that I had changed, and I knew that I had evolved beyond it. I needed to be doing something different with my life. And that was partly because I had genuinely reached a point where I needed to be doing something different with my life, but it was also because in terms of my anxiety levels and sense of overwhelm, I couldn't and didn't want to have to cope with the level of pressure and the intensity and the multitasking that is required within a school environment. So I had to make some adaptations. I had to become incredibly creative about my professional career life. It had to change. I couldn't stay working in a school situation. So after some time, and when I felt well enough again, and after several times of trying to go back into school situations and realizing it wasn't right for me, I then had to become quite creative, and that's when I switched my working life to very much thinking about doing this work with people recovering from nervous breakdowns. But what I did to start with is I had to, before there was an income coming in from that, then what I needed to do was have another way of bringing in an income. So I transitioned from school teaching into a private tutoring. And that was great for me because I was then in a kind of like a one-to-one situation. So there was much less pressure. I could choose the hours. I could fit the hours around what felt right for me so that I wasn't overwhelming myself and becoming over anxious and so on. So I could basically take the skills and experience from my previous work situation and bring them into a new work situation that I had created for myself. So it might be that you might need to think about doing something like that as well. It might be that your skills and experience are still very much part of you, but the environment that you were in no longer works for you. So really do have a think about thinking creatively about income development as well. What is going to be right for you authentically in this new post-breakdown world for yourself. Now, of course, we all need to make sure we have healthy income. We need to make sure we're paying our bills, keeping a roof over our head and so on. So you've got to be very kind of like sensible about that. But if you are in a situation where you can allow yourself to become much more creative, to think about how your work life can be truly authentic for yourself, I really advise you to take some time to do that as well, because it can be highly beneficial. So in terms of our wilderness writing activity today, I'd like you to take some time with your journal. Start off with maybe 15 minutes, but longer if you need to. And really have a think about just asking your inner guidance. And I have put there'll be a meditation video underneath this, a guidance video to take you into a good place to begin this journaling activity. And connect you in with your inner guidance, your inner wisdom, your inner healer. And just ask them, what do you need to do to prepare for this new role, this new job? What guidance, what 5 things ideas can they offer you that maybe I haven't thought of, something that's very personal and relevant to you? So that's about preparing. And then ask your inner guidance, what's their guidance? 5 things to help you survive that first day and those first few weeks. And just journal on it and see what your inner guidance comes up with for you. And then have a little play. Think about, if I was going to take all my skills and experience and the awareness of myself in post-breakdown recovery, this new life, really genuine, authentic, high-level, conscious living, joyful living, post-breakdown life for myself that I'm creating, what would that look like? And it might very well be being in a sort of traditional work setting. That might be exactly what you need, and really become very clear about that vision for yourself. Or it might be something that needs to evolve and shift and change, and you might need to adapt your skills and experience in a different way to really fit in with who you are now. And what does that look like? Create the vision for that. If you have any questions about that, any aspect of this video, please email them to me at karen@karenpackwood.com or leave them in the comments box below. I'm always very happy to receive your questions because it really helps me know what content to provide for you in these videos. So please feel free to email me or leave a comment in the comments box below. And I'm going to wish you a very peaceful day as you prepare for your new situation in your new job. Please let me know how you get on. Please let me know if you need any support as you're going along with that. And in the meantime, I'm going to wish you a very peaceful day. I'm Karen Packwood. This is the Spirit Spa, an online sanctuary dedicated to supporting you if you're in the early stages of recovering from a nervous breakdown, helping you identify why the breakdown has happened to you and to work out your next natural steps towards rebuilding a flourishing and authentic and joyful life for yourself. Take care. Have a very lovely day.